Coming up on Network Africa, the United States raises concerns over the clashes between Shiite Muslims and the Nigerian police. Nigeria Super Falcons prepare for their opening march against Mali. And on our Africa Tech segment, we take a look at youth and technology development. Glad to have you on the last edition of the program this week. I am Bisia Debayo. The United States says it's concerned about the deaths of Nigerians in clashes between Shiite Muslims and the police, which occurred earlier in the week. In a statement by the U.S. diplomatic mission in Nigeria issued by spokesman John Kirby, it says although the matter is still under investigation, it's troubling to see the apparent disproportionate response by the police. The U.S. wants the government to conduct an investigation and bring to account anyone responsible for violating the law. Last month, the Kaduna state government declared IMN as an unlawful society on the grounds that its processions were a danger to peace and said anyone convicted of being a member of the sect could be imprisoned for up to 7 years. The Singaporean government has executed a 38-year-old Nigerian man for drug trafficking after he was caught with 2.6 kilograms of cannabis. In a statement, the Central Narcotics Bureau said Chijioke Obiora had his death sentence carried out today at the Shangi prison complex. Obiora, an industrial chemistry graduate from the University of Benin, had originally moved to Singapore in 2005, hoping to be a footballer. He was arrested in 2007 by drugs officers who found 14 blocks of cannabis in a bag he was carrying and another 14 blocks in the flat he was renting. Under Singaporean law, anyone caught with more than 500 grams of cannabis can be sentenced to death. Obiora's execution followed a lengthy legal process. On a sad note, at least 73 people have been killed and scores injured in Mozambique on Thursday as they tried to siphon fuel from an overturned truck which exploded. The truck had been transporting fuel to Malawi from the port city of Beira and was near the border when the accident occurred. The injured have been taken to a hospital, and government team is due to travel to the area in Tete province, and that's some 2,000 kilometers from the capital Maputo on Friday. Mozambique is one of the world's poorest countries and struggles constantly with food shortages caused by drought. A leading Zimbabwean activist, Patson Zamara, has been abducted, beaten up and dumped at a lake near the capital Harare by suspected security officials. At least 6 other Zimbabwean activists were also abducted and beaten up ahead of today's planned protest against the government. The leader of the protest explains that the activist and 2 others were admitted to the hospital after the abduction by unidentified men. Zimbabwe's government is yet to comment on reports that security officials may be behind the abductions. Opposition groups had called for a protest today against President Robert Mugabe's 36-year rule amid a growing economic and financial crisis. The Special Representative for South Sudan, Ellen Margaretti, says the deterioration of the economy and the increasingly disjointed conflict have placed the country on a potential downward slide. She believes the country is headed towards greater disunity and is at the risk of a full-scale civil conflict that could render national cohesion almost impossible to achieve.
I saw all the signs that ethnic hatred and targeting of civilians could evolve into genocide if something is not done now to stop it. I urge the Security Council and member states of the region to be united and to take action.
South Sudan is a nation at the precipice. As Mr. Dieng said upon completing his visit to the country last week, there is, quote, a strong risk of violence escalating along ethnic lines with the potential for genocide, end quote. When the UN's designated special advisor for the prevention of genocide reaches the conclusion that genocide could be imminent, it should serve as a wake-up call for us all.
The United Nations Children's Fund has released a report saying the Central African Republic has been facing a complex humanitarian and protection crisis since December 2012. UNICEF predicts that an estimated 2.3 million people will be in need of humanitarian assistance, including 1.2 million children by the end of the year.
As the fragile recovery continues, more than 850,000 people in Central African Republic, half of them children, are still on the move, either internally displaced or refugees in neighboring countries. Insecurity in the aftermath of the conflict has prevented most of the 920,000 people displaced in early 2014 from returning home. Today, 383,000 people remain displaced in the country, while 468,000 have sought refuge in Cameroon, Chad, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Congo, with Cameroon hosting more than half of these refugees. Violence and widespread displacement have made children easily vulnerable to health risks, exploitation and abuse, leaving more than one-third out of school and 41% children under 5 suffering from chronic malnutrition. An estimated 6,000 to 10,000 have been recruited into armed groups since 2013. Most recently, repeated flare-ups of violence have forced several non-governmental organizations to significantly scale down their interventions in parts of the country, slowing the progress of the National Recovery Plan. UNICEF calls on Central African leaders and global donors to put children first in the recovery plan by prioritizing basic social services like health and education for the most vulnerable, noting that only a balanced recovery plan with equity as the guiding principle can lay the foundation for a peaceful future. Working with the government and partners, UNICEF is strengthening the education system by training more than 1,300 teachers and building or repairing 172 schools in 2016 with funding from the European Union and the Global Partnership for Education. Existing projects are set to expand in order to strengthen primary health care, improve access to clean water, and offer psychosocial support for children who've experienced violence.